Hey folks, welcome to a very cool brew about something we've been hoping would happen, right? Mm-hmm. And we have something very exciting to share with everyone who's been following the Henry Vahlkamp story so far. So we're 2 episodes in. This episode coming up, we're gonna wrap it up and tell the full story. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we needed a little bit more information. We only had 1 picture of Henry up to this point. Mm-hmm. And now we're rich with Henry data because we met the family. So it's a really exciting development. Mm-hmm. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so we met two people who were related to Henry Vahlkamp. So as we have been showing these videos that we've been recording, talking about the house and then talking about the history, some of the family had started creeping in not creeping, but some of them had been starting to leave messages in the comments, like, hey, I'm related to him, or, you know.
Great-great-grandson.
Right, a lot of great-great-grandchildren. And so we always leave a message saying, contact us, send us an email. You know, we try to give at least 2 emails too, just in case one isn't working, or someone's just not looking at it for a little bit.
Who would that be? I don't know who doesn't check their email.
I don't know either, but so that's kind of how we connected. It was through us showing these videos, then the family just kind of slowly trickling in and watching and leaving messages. And then, you know, one fateful day, I look in my email and I have an email from one of them, and it's
we can share names, I think, for 2. We've been allowed to share 2 names.
Yeah. Scott and
reached
Bill
out to us, and mm-hmm. Bill has also been talking to us, mm-hmm. and we got some video of this we're going to share with you soon.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of sharing information back and forth, and I think some of the family may have just been questioning, like, where did you come from, and how did you get this information?
What are you up to? Like, what's your motivation? I think would be a question I would have too, right?
Yeah, there's that too, and so through emails and through sharing some information, Scott said, okay, cool. Well, I have tons and tons of photos and letters and information. So why don't you come on by? He lives here in St. Louis. And it was just like...
And we did. The whole crew jumped in a car, and it wasn't a very far drive. It was, 30 minutes.
It was about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
30 minutes west.
West, and we rolled up, and we were welcomed by Scott and Bill, and Scott's wife. And I don't know if we can share that name, so we're just going to stay away from that. But they welcomed us and shared a lot of information with us we did not know. So we'd been working on a 4-page autobiography that seemed to have been pieced together. The way it was written, I noticed sort of like this change in voice. Mm-hmm. We both did. And come to find out, it was parts of a much larger document that Scott was able to share with us. We've gotten documents, lots of new documents, personal letters, diary entries, not full diaries, but we've gotten diary entries from key grandchildren who accompanied Henry on foreign trips. Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of new information about what he was up to, after the brewery closed, for sure, where he traveled, who he was with.
So we found out that he traveled extensively after he retired. So there are some beautiful photos that we've seen of him in front of the Great Pyramids.
Yeah, St. Peter's in Rome.
Yeah, St. Peter's Square.
Greece.
Athens.
Athens. All over the place. He apparently went to Germany 10 times. We learned a lot of new things. So we're going to take all that information and wrap that into episode 3 that we are furiously writing. Mm-hmm. Really trying to drive to the end here and give you a good finish to what we've started.
And not only, they were so sweet to Scott and Bill were so sweet to us that they had everything laid out on 2 tables for us when we first showed up. So we sat down in the living room, we kind of talked with each other, kind of figured out what was going on. And then I know in speaking with Bill, he was kind of like how did you get this much information? He's like,
Yeah.
I've known, Bill was married to one of the descendants for the Vahlkamps. And so his late wife used to talk a lot about Henry and about the family. So he had a lot of information as well.
Yeah.
And then Scott was descendant from Hulda.
Another daughter, yep.
Yeah, so which is another daughter, and Hulda married Homer Ziegler. And then there's some
Great
connections
story there.
too.
We have a tie-in now to Anheuser-Busch and how basically two members of this family, one was with the Lemps, Vahlkamp, and one was with AB, and Homer Ziegler helped AB get through Prohibition. So it's a fascinating story how two people went from relative obscurity to very high up into huge breweries here locally.
Well, and I'm not sure if it's coincidental, but Vahlkamp was the only non-Lemp
Family member,
to be on the board.
Yeah.
And Homer Ziegler was the first non-family member to be vice president of Anheuser-Busch, and it wasn't until after Prohibition when they promoted him to vice president.
Same family, essentially. So Henry's son-in-law, first non-Bush VP at AB, helped them get through Prohibition. Tons of information there. So that the two, this was quite a family. One, I would almost say, an unsung major player in the brewing industry here in St. Louis. Now that we've found these two things out, like major player, but silent almost. Like we know that Vahlkamp. We also confirmed some things that we had sort of gotten out of research, but we confirmed that Vahlkamp did play a very key role, a very active leadership role in the Lemp Brewery, almost like a CFO or a CEO that we think of today, a combination of the two. Not to diminish what Lemp was doing, he was running the operations and the brewing part and that aspect of the business. But we did confirm that Vahlkamp was very active in his leadership position. And we also, as we've researched this third episode, it's really driven home to me how long Vahlkamp was with the company. You can
Over 50 years. So he started in 1870, and then he retired in 1922. But as he has written, he still helped out until it officially closed in 1925. So actually, Henry Vahlkamp is the employee that worked for the Lemps the longest. Worked there longer than any Lemp had, actually. Yeah. So he was there over 50 years. And there's a little note in one of the letters that they gave us about one of the grandchildren listening to a watch that would chime that he got for his 50th anniversary of working with the brewery.
Yeah, Henry got a chiming pocket watch, which I would be very interested to find out more about that. But yeah, we learned a ton about one other thing. We saw some personal effects from the Vahlkamps, Henry.
Family keepsakes.
Yeah, so we saw some silverware and a platter that had his wife's name on it.
Yeah, so it was Caroline Vahlkamp's name was engraved on it, and we're thinking it was from their golden wedding anniversary, so their 50th wedding anniversary, which it's crazy to think of people being able to celebrate their 50th year being married to someone. And so they had the platter, they had mother of pearl handled silver knives and spoons, and it had her initials in them. And it was just, it's one of those, it's one of the first times that we've really touched such a personal item that came from the family. You know, we have the house, we have the mantles that we can touch, that we know that they probably touched too, but to have something so personal.
Right, the handle of a knife that was used at a Christmas gathering at least at the Lafayette house. We know that.
Yes.
So
And then, and as we're going through and we're looking at these keepsakes, they're also talking about memories that family members have had about the Christmases.
yeah.
There's, a beautiful story about Henry throwing gold coins at downed, not at, but downed for grandkids to run and collect, kind of like a piñata. And then there's even a necklace that has one of those gold coins that he had. Vahlkamp ended up making into a necklace for one of the kids as a keepsake, and that she would wear that every Christmas.
Yeah.
After she received it.
Which reminds me, we did get a whole thumb drive of digital scans, pictures. We have a large number of family pictures, a couple new ones of the house. So did we learn anything about the house that we didn't know about?
I think the oldest picture that we have of the house is from the 1930s, I want to say. The front fence that iron fence is still...
It is the iron fence.
It's been there. And there is no indication that the house was painted white.
Yeah, it wasn't white.
Not originally, so. But there's some photos of it in the 70s or the 60s or 70s. And I want to say it's red, so that's when they must have painted it red. But I remember seeing some flashes of photos where there were bricks that were white.
Well, it's very confusing. If you look at the house, and we're going to go and do that once we get a lift and we can get some time in a little warmer climate. We're going to go look at the cornice in detail. Our friend Marvin he started out as a troll. Marvin, you did. You started out trolling us pretty bad, but he's become a real friend of the channel, and he has helped us look at historically at the colors of what's being used, or what probably was used on the house, and we've learned a lot from Marvin. So we're going to try to get a lift at some point, go up there in the cornice, see if we can find some paint underneath the white, see if they painted that cornice at all.
It is hard to tell from that photo from 1930.
It's white up there and it's brick. I mean, it is basic.
Yeah, yeah.
So, not very Victorian. I guess, that was the 30s, so lot later.
Right. So still unsure. It was in the 1930s, depending on when in the 30s, Vahlkamp's family still could have owned it.
Could have, yeah.
We have a map that shows that it changed owners in 34 to a realty company. So it could have at that point.
Vahlkamp passed away in 31? Yes, 31.
Beginning of 31.
So it was just a few years, maybe even in the same year that he passed away. We don't know when in the 30s it was taken, or even if it was actually in the 30s, because it was undated. But judging from the paper that was on and just some of the visual indicators.
Well, and we even have photos that Bill took of the house in, I want to say, the 80s, and it's covered in vines.
Yeah, it's got ivy.
Yeah.
Completely covered in ivy.
It's totally covered in ivy, and so, which answers some questions that I've had, because if you go into part of the back of the house, you can actually see roots that have gone in all the way through the 3 courses of brick, and we're starting to attach to the studs and things like that in the wall. So
that's where that came from.
So it was totally covered in vines at that point, which is also probably a large reason as to why so much tuck pointing had to be done before, because those roots really do. It's not like they're like hammering through your mortar to get in, but if there's a small crack, they'll push their way through. And then as the roots grow, they just pop the mortar out. But going back to meeting with the family, we were able to look at all of the wares and listen to stories that they had. And we found out a really cool bit of information about a statue in the jewel box.
Yeah, there's a statue dedicated to the Vahlkamps in the jewel box in Forest Park. So we're gonna make a quick trip over there to see that for sure. It's one of the brews that we do. So keep coming back and we'll take you exciting places like that.
Yep. And I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways that we've had from this is that the family is watching what we're doing.
Well, let's talk about okay, so we're going to wrap it up here, but your favorite thing that you learned in this entire thing.
My favorite thing that I learned or
did or whatever experience.
Yeah, I mean, coming back home with this teeny tiny little jump drive and then opening it up, it was, I mean, there are files and files and photos and letters and all of this stuff. And so I think the biggest thing for me, because I'm such a researcher and I'm such a history nerd, is that we went from having this much information about Henry to now we have this much information about him.
Absolutely, troves of it.
So it's just, I feel like we have more of an insight into who he was and what his life was really like.
He became human to me in a way he was not before. I saw a picture of him in his 20s when he was out west. Pictures of him, one picture of him when he built the house with his, or at least when he was in the house. So in his 30s, maybe early 40s. And then all kinds of pictures of him traveling the world, him meeting President Hindenburg of Germany, all kinds of things that I didn't realize he had done.
Well, and I know we had kind of, Henry Vahlkamp is well known as a man who had a large white beard. And so we were kind of wondering, did he always have the really big beard or did he not? And we have a photo of him in his 20s and it comes down to about here.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And then about, I would say mid 80s or so, I mean, it's a full
on, out of control.
It's a full beard, but it's like dark brown or something like that. So yes, Vahlkamp pretty much always had.
He's always had a beard. It was in his 20s. It was about this long. 30s or 40s this long. It never stopped being that long. So my favorite thing. Let me go to my favorite thing. My favorite thing was finding out that there is a living family out there related to Henry, who is watching this show. I think knowing that made me feel like this has more of a purpose, and I just love it. I love the fact that we have family there's family in Texas, family here in Missouri, other places around the country.
Yeah, I think Ohio.
Yeah.
Portland, Seattle.
Just everywhere. So, I mean, Henry and his children spread out across the country, and we are now, I think, connecting this family together in a way that feels kind of special to me. So that was my favorite part.
Yeah, Scott and Bill said that now they're all talking with each other.
Yeah.
Now they're all trying to figure out who has what information, because there's some family keepsakes that I've known about in my research, and so I kind of started asking around, and but for me it's great because I also feel like I'm helping this family kind of uncover more things about Henry's legacy. It was so nice to talk with Bill, who would listen to me drone on about this stuff too. But he had questions, and he's like, well, how did you find out about the house on Lux? I've never heard of it. Or, things as like, we've never seen his will before, and I managed to find it digging through some documents. So it feels really good to help this family gain more of an insight.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And to know that their family member actually really meant
right. I like to connect to living people. So the work we're doing is helping living people know about themselves and their fellow family members. So that's really neat. Okay, so that's kind of our quick report, our field report. So all of this work and all this research and all of this stuff is being compiled, and we're hopeful that we'll put together a more complete story about Henry and the Lemps in the future. We're certainly going to use a lot of this data and information in episode 3 about the life and times of Henry Vahlkamp. And we are titling it, what are we calling it?
We're titling it The Tale of Two Families.
A Tale of Two Families. Truly is a tale of two families.
It's going to be a long one, but it's going to be really good.
Yep.
But we do have a special announcement. This Friday, December 23rd, Matt and I are going to be here later in the evening. We're going to go live. We're going to do a live Q&A about anything you guys have questions on about the house, about the history. As we kind of tinker away, we're going to bring one of the smaller medallions, I think, in, and we're going to start working on it so we can show you guys things that we discover as we're uncovering this, and
yeah, maybe if we can find a way to
if we can get it,
destroy this place with dust and everything.
I know.
I don't know.
If not, then we'll have to find something else to do. Maybe it'll just be a Q&A and we'll just sit and talk. But JD and Megan will be here. They'll be filming. So if you guys have any questions for JD and Megan on filming, on producing, if you have any questions for Matt and I, as far as the renovation process, the
whatever,
history.
ask us anything.
Yeah.
This is your chance.
Right. So start thinking about those questions, and we will be here 8:30 Central Standard Time on Friday, December 23rd.
8:30 Central Standard Time Friday. See you there.